Greetings, greetings. Testing, testing. We are live on the tube. Come on in, come on in. I am going to check if we are live. Let's see. Are we live? Please let me know if anybody's here. It's always greatly appreciated. It is the Saga Reveal. It's always great. There you go. We are live. Alrighty. What do we have today? Let me start with my introduction and greetings to the Saga lovers. Welcome to our Saga Reveal. I'm your host, Madem-Oiselle. Please hit the like button, subscribe for notification, and share with others. So, my tea's ready. Come on in. Let's get cozy. We're going to have a little chat and gab. And remember, this channel is for commentary and entertainment only. We talk about everything. So I got a couple of things I wanted to cover up since I haven't had the chance to cover it up last time. So what happened here? Let me see which one first. We are going to start. Let's get in a little overview on what happened last week. So we have the LeDrew 3 minutes interview, and he's covering the delay that's going on the pipelines because of politics. There's been delays, and it threatens Canada's financial stability. It looks like we really need these pipelines. All right, so let's get on with the LeDrew's pipeline. Let me share it here. Pipelines. So here we are with Mr. LeDrew. Give me one second. I'm going to put it on a full-on screen here.
Please subscribe and donate to become members. Keep us on the air. Dan McKay, long-time Liberal member of Parliament when the Liberal Party was a party. He now knows oil and gas inside out. He joins me because I put the question to you after Premier Danielle Smith of Alberta is saying, I'm going to try to get a pipeline.
Hold on. I got to fix this. Audio. Let's go back here. Try this.
Out to the ocean. I'm going to...
Hold on. My microphone.
Try to resuscitate. Ottawa is still saying, no, notwithstanding elbows up Carney. Tell us the future. You know it.
Well, the future is quite tense, and if this doesn't get approved...
Sorry, my bad, guys. I gotta fix this. Don't understand what happened to my head speaker and my headphone. Let's go fix this up. Okay, let's see this.
Something along the lines of what would have been the former...
I don't think that worked. Oh, maybe.
Northern Gateway pipeline, scuppered by the Trudeau Liberals, and apparently still in caucus, from what I understand. A lot of people still opposed to this particular pipeline. It's the only alternative we have at our disposal to get oil out to global markets, other than selling to the United States and what we can jam through the currently at near capacity Trans Mountain pipeline, which, by the way, the expansion cost you and I $50 billion from the private sector, is prepared to do it for $6 billion at no cost to the consumers.
Well, that was the early Trudeau when he could do anything in the world, and all Canadians went along with him. But you know, the point is.
Well, my apologies, guys.
There's going to be regulatory delays for years.
Wow. I gotta fix this sound. Give me 1 second. There's something off with my audio. So we got the testing. Test. Testing. All right, I can hear that. Let's go now here.
Years, we just can't afford this.
Well, look what British Columbia did.
Something is off. Let me test. Let's try again.
Sounds like they're working. Have a great show. Testing speakers.
Okay. I thought this was gonna work, but try something else here. Alrighty, let's test this. Test. Okay, so far so good.
Blocked a pipeline approved by the federal government, and the Liberals didn't fight for it, even though they had given their consent. The company
Canada and the economy, please subscribe and donate, become members. Keep us on the air. Dan McCaig, longtime Liberal member of Parliament when the Liberal Party was a party. He now knows oil and gas inside out. He joins me because I put the question to you after Premier Danielle Smith of Alberta is saying, I'm going to try to get a pipeline out to the ocean. I'm going to try to resuscitate. Ottawa is still saying, no, notwithstanding elbows up Carney. Tell us the future. You know it.
Well, the future is quite tense, and if this doesn't get approved, something along the lines of what would have been the former Northern Gateway pipeline, scuppered by the Trudeau Liberals, and apparently still in caucus, from what I understand, a lot of people still opposed to this particular pipeline. It's the only alternative we have at our disposal to get oil out to global markets, other than selling to the United States and what we can jam through the currently at near capacity Trans Mountain pipeline, which, by the way, the expansion cost you and I $50 billion from the private sector, was prepared to do it for $6 billion at no cost to the consumers.
Well, that was the early Trudeau when he could do anything in the world, and all Canadians went along with him. But
it's never a good deal for the Liberals if they're not paying more money.
How long are we going to be able to keep our heads in the sand? People already, I know, I hear that it's difficult to get investors to come to Canada because they say even if the government approves it, there's going to be regulatory delays for years and years. We just can't afford this.
Well, look what British Columbia did. It blocked a pipeline approved by the federal government, and the Liberals didn't fight for it, even though they had given their consent. The company had gone through literal hoops to get this thing approved, only to have the federal government say, too bad, that's the law of the land. That's people have the right to do their lawfare. They have the right to obstruct. So the company basically turned around and said, we're going to sue you. And Bill Morneau, to his credit, the foreign finance minister, said, we don't have a case. We'll buy you out, but what's going to cost us an extra $44 billion to build it. So, and that's money you and I, our children, our grandchildren, God knows who else is going to have to pay for.
Okay,
now,
so
you can't do it that way.
The bottom line is, even though the government said it's going to be changing, it doesn't sound like it is anytime soon. It still has full of ministers who don't like progress. Is Canada doomed?
Canada is doomed financially. We're going to find that out on November the 4th when the budget is going to produce a deficit the likes of which we have never seen. It would, I'm sure if Paul Martin were in the same position, he would be running for the hills because it's likely that we could see a major credit downgrade. We have no investment coming to the country because we have scared away investments with our woke ideas around ESG and DEI and all these other wonderful things. The reality is that energy to other markets produces even sometimes $40 billion in revenues to the federal, provincial, municipal governments. Without that money, without increasing that, we're going to wind up with a debt that we can't pay.
And interestingly enough, we could pay it. We could pay it if we only got our act together.
Lined up a dozen great countries came to us and said, please give us your LNG, give us your gas, give us your oil. And what do we said? And AI is coming around the corner. And we can't produce AI. We can't even attract them because we got tons of natural gas, but let's keep it in the ground.
Yeah, for 100 years from now. Dan McTagg, thank you very much. 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. And that was the LeDrew Show. He used to be on TV and now he has his own little YouTube channel. All right, so this was one of the things that I wanted to cover up. And then let's go see what the minister commented on last week. Here, hold on. So yeah, that's let's go here. Share view. Let's go. We got a couple of things to cover here. Wrong one. Which one is it? Hey, this is the one I wanted. So we got, yes. We got it right. Let's get into let's go back here. I'll translate. She asks him about is Pierre Poiliévre going to stay still the leader of the party after his comment on the RCMP? And he's saying we're 2 weeks ahead from the financial report to be released for the budget. And he's saying that the Bloc Québécois is already excluding themselves. They don't want to vote on this budget, apparently without even reading it. And the Conservatives as well they're not interested in voting on it at all. In 6 months within the election, he says Canadian wants some stability about and information about their budget. And he finds that they are not taking things seriously. Have you spoken to them? And he says there's been a lot of conversations between him, Mr. Legault, and Champagne, including him. They are listening. They're listening to their proposals. Well, since it's your job to talk to them and get them to vote, so you only got the NDP, she asked him. Let's go back. Skip the question. And he's talking about Canadians are looking for stability and a plan. And he thinks that the conservatives are playing some cavalry games like back in the Roman days about the future of the country and the budget. And he's worried. He's saying, I'll give you an example. Well, Pierre Poiliévre is a little bit unreasonable about the budget staying at 42 max. So now we know the budget's going to pass the 42. So let's go on with this. He just told us, guys. She says, well, it seems like you're speaking the same way as last year when the parliament froze and that nothing has changed ever since. And he's saying they are less serious than they used to be. Oh, one of them told him it's unimaginable to support your budget. Let's go back here. He's talking about everybody. And he says that Mr. Blanchet is not interested at all. He thinks it's unimaginable to go for it. He didn't like this guy question. Let's go back. Do you think there will be a refund? For the refund? Tax rebate to be back? He said, first of all, they say it's unimaginable to support this budget. And then they came with a lot of concessions. And then with more conditions, some negotiables, some are not negotiables. It's really hard to follow the Bloc Québécois. He just pushed them off. And he said, she asked, are you guys ready to go on election? He said, yeah, we're sure. We want to go to election. Alrighty, so that was it for him. Let's pause it. Alrighty. Okay, let's stop sharing. Next, what do we have? We got Batra. Let's go see, because you know what? Even Batra didn't know that there was going to be a speech from our Prime Minister. So let's go. Let's check on Batra. Hold on, hold on. Testing, what's going on? I just gotta check something here. Seems like my StreamYard must have frozen. Uh-huh. Yeah, let's go back here. My apologies. Here we go.
This is a homegrown problem that the Carney government really needs to tackle. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilly and Laurie Goldstein. So, Brian, we have a federal budget finally coming after, I forgot even when the last one was, but we have one
Last
coming.
year.
Canada's parliamentary budget officer has suggested now that the deficit is going to be in and around $68.5 billion, up from $51 billion. And I know, like, numbers, they make people's eyes
42.
glaze over. But it's important to pay attention to this because it spells very poor health for our economy more broadly.
Well, it's a good
Thank
thing
you,
that we
Bertrand.
elected a banker and an economist to turn things around. Oh, wait, we did elect him, but he's not turning things around. I know people are going to blame this massive deficit on Donald Trump. But let me point out, before Trump was ever elected, the deficit was projected to be 51 billion. Now they're saying it'll be 68 billion due to the impact of tariffs, economic uncertainty, trade that's changing. But 51 billion, that's more that we were projected to have a deficit approaching what we spend on the transfers for healthcare to the provinces. So the federal government's spending more on the deficit than on healthcare. The interest to pay and service that debt, by the way, is even higher. That's 53 billion. It's going to go up as a result of this as well. That's also more than we're spending on healthcare. So this is a government that was in economic ruin and decline before Trump ever stepped foot back in the Oval Office. This is a homegrown problem. We do not have fiscal anchors anymore, as the PBO report shows. We are in a mess of our own making, and we need to do things to change it. Great piece in Financial Post just today from Ted Morton, saying much of the same as what I've been saying. Mark Carney's response to the economic changes are modest and just far too tepid for what we need in this coming session.
You know, Laurie, I sometimes think, yes, of course, Carney is a banker. He's a finance guy.
What does that do?
I often think, does he look at the books and say,
it's good for
holy
his
crap, what
portfolio.
the hell did Trudeau and Freeland do, for the last, near decade?
Nothing.
And it must frustrate him to no end, but he is very much in a position to put those fiscal anchors back into place and to turn things around. But as we have talked about for the last few weeks, he seems to be pulled in this direction of a caucus that has no interest in reining in any spending. I have not heard once from any cabinet minister. I know they got their orders to look for reductions in their various departments.
Thank you, Batra.
And I've never heard any one of them say we need to rein in our spending so we don't have to pay all that debt on interest so they can provide services for Canadians.
Well, the first thing is that we don't have to look very far to people who said that the Trudeau government left us in very bad shape. Carney said that during the Liberal leadership race. And he specifically said we were in trouble before the Trump tariffs. He is associated with two policies by the Trudeau government. One, the getting immigration out of control. When immigration is coming in faster than the growth rate of the economy, our standard of living goes down. Everybody gets a little smaller piece of the pie. And the second one was operating spending by the government, the Trudeau government, going up at 9% a year. So we don't need, as I say, we don't need to go far. Carney knows this. But the Prime Minister is making the transition from being a banker and an economist
He was the
to a
advisor.
politician. And we see that in everything he's doing. In terms of the enormity of the problem we faced before Trump, during the Trudeau era, we had the lowest rate of growth in GDP per capita, which is a widely accepted measure of standard of living of any government in Canada since the Great Depression. And we know that because in 2015, when Trudeau came into power, he said under the Stephen Harper government, Canada had the lowest rate of growth defined as GDP per capita since the Great Depression. Well, Trudeau did worse. So we know from the former prime minister that we were in bad shape before any of the Trump stuff happened. Having said that, everything's heading in the wrong direction. The deficits are higher than they were predicted. They were also higher than the deficits Trudeau predicted, going when he did the last, of blessed memory, the last economic statement, which was last year, late last year.
Late last year.
GDP,
December 16th,
our economy,
the day that Freeland resigned.
Exactly. Our economy is contracting.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's get away from the Trump hysteria for a moment. The governor of the Bank of Canada this week, emphasized the importance of things like we've got to break down those provincial trade barriers. The federal government seems to think that when it makes an announcement that it is lowered the federal impediments to provincial trade, it's solved. It's not solved.
It's not solved.
Because all the provinces have their own impediments. That needs to happen. Carney has promised now because he knows the deficit's going to be huge. What he's done is he said, okay, on the operating side, which the Trudeau government used to raise at 9% a year, that's the cost of running the government, basically the cost of the public service and certain other things. He says, okay, I'm going to drop that from 9% a year to less than 2% a year, right? And that's how I'm going to balance the operating budget in 3 years. But then what he's done is that he's capital spending is nothing new in governments. Capital spending happens all the time. That's investments in infrastructure, the whatever the federal participation will be in the nation building projects, right? And he's going to use that money to invest. It doesn't matter whether you call it an investment or a deficit. It's all part of the deficit. So he knows the deficit is going to go up. And look, we have to see the budget before we know exactly what he's doing. But one thing I'll be watching for is an easy way to say that he's balancing the operating budget, right, is to take things that were normally considered part of the operating budget and put it into the capital.
That's right.
We have no way, and economists who've looked at it said, well, at the moment we have no way of knowing. We need to know what his explanations are. The other thing is on fiscal guardrails. He says there will be fiscal guardrails. But as Brian noted, just before she quit as the finance minister, one of the reasons she said she resigned, aside from being personally humiliated by Justin Trudeau, was that he ignored the fiscal guardrail she had set up. Okay, the deficit can't go lower than this, right? Or it can't be higher than this. And in that economic statement, they blew that deficit. So, I'm sure, like many others.
And while she was running her campaign, she said Carney is going to raise it. So with that, up to the next news. Hold on, guys. Let me share this with you. Ta-da. Food inflation. It's going to be the end of Mr. Carney. Let's go. Is it this one or this one? What is this one? Share it. Yes. Checking my sound. Hold on. There.
their groceries. Check it out.
Well, I think the way Canadians will hold account by their experience at the grocery store, when they're paying their electricity bill, when they or their children are looking for a place to live. So it will be their experiences how they will they will form those judgments, and then of course accountability comes at the ballot box.
Well, the new food inflation numbers are out. Well,
He's already regretting seeing it while he was saying it. Looks like he was already regretting it, saying it. Did you guys see how he stumbled? Jesus.
Overall,
let's go back.
Is how Canadians will hold account by their experience at the grocery store, when they're paying their electricity bill, when they or their children are looking for a place to live. So it will be their experiences how they will they will form those judgments, and then of course accountability comes at the ballot box.
Well, the new food inflation numbers are out. Well, overall inflation is at 1.9%, driven mostly by the price of gas going down in August. But food inflation is at 3.4% overall, 3.5% for groceries.
Wow.
And then you get into some categories like meat, and it's 7.2%, 12.7% for beef. And there's some that are even worse, but I'll save those for our guest, Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, the food professor, visiting scholar at McGill University in Montreal. Sylvain,
Tell us
you were
some
kind
more,
of expecting
Sylvain.
these numbers, weren't you?
I was, unfortunately. And we've been saying it since, I guess, March. On March the 4th, if you recall, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau decided to implement counter tariffs against the U.S., making Canada the only other country than China to do that. And since the beginning, I've always thought it was a bad idea, especially when it comes to food. And
But how does that affect our food? Because most people are just going to think that we tariffed, steel and aluminum, the things they put tariffs on for us.
Of course.
we were in breach of CUSMA. And this is something that a lot of Canadians didn't realize until probably this summer when, a video went viral.
Decided to put a tariff on the U.S. when we have a trade deal already. This is why it's getting higher and higher. Let's listen to this young man again. Sylvain.
CUSMA. And this is something, in the beginning, I've always thought it was a bad idea, especially when it comes to food. And
But how does that affect our food? Because most people are just going to think that we tariffed, steel and aluminum, the things they put tariffs on for us.
we were in breach of CUSMA. And this is something that a lot of Canadians didn't realize until probably this summer when, a video went viral this summer, if you recall, filming the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to Canada, saying that we were in breach. And he was right. Finally, someone said it. And it impacted many, many verticals at the grocery store, including coffee, tea, pasta, spices, nuts, lots of goods, of course, citrus, some fresh products, not a whole lot, but some fresh products. And so it was just a matter of time before we saw food inflation being impacted by counter tariffs. And that's exactly what we got in both July and August.
So I don't even know what the logic or the thinking behind putting tariffs on that would be.
Me neither, Lily.
During the election, Conservative leader Pierre Poiliévre supported the idea of putting counter tariffs, but he said, I believe he was the first to say, we'll apply them in a way that has maximum impact but doesn't hurt Canadians. Mark Carney quickly copied that language. And I thought, I remember thinking at the time, you don't want to be putting tariffs on celery from Bakersfield, California in the middle of the winter when we can't grow celery. Why would we tariff coffee? We don't grow coffee
At
here.
all.
There is no way for us to say, you know what? Let's plant a coffee tree out back and put Juan Valdez out of business. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I spoke to the Coffee Association of Canada, and there is a tea association in Canada as well. Both were scratching their heads in terms of why are we tariffing tea and coffee when we have no sector to protect in the first place.
And the Americans don't produce it either.
That's right, but a lot of it is packaged in the U.S. So right now, what we're facing at the grocery store is a double whammy when it comes to tariffs. For example, we know now that the U.S. is applying a 50% tariff on anything that's coming from Brazil, Well, guess what was happening? So we get 50% from Brazil, and we added an extra 25% coming in, and with small margins. And this is the difference, Brian, between food and other sectors. With food, margins are so low,
Little.
prices have to be adjusted very, very quickly, and that's why it didn't take long before we saw differences at the grocery store.
Yeah, margins are generally 2 to 4% in the food sector.
Approximately. Yeah.
So why beef then? Because we produce a lot of beef here, and I know there's an integrated market with the United States, but I was just in a grocery store yesterday, and I looked in the beef counter, and
you had a heart attack.
Yeah, and it wasn't from eating too many steaks. It was from the price. But then I looked, and there were cheaper options, and I'm scratching my head at this. Cheaper options are steak brought in from Australia. So I'll ask you about the Australia in a minute, but why? What's driving the price of beef up? Is it the tariffs, or do we have something else going on?
No, it's not a tariff story there. It's really a drought. So back in 2014, we experienced the same thing. A drought affected many regions in North America, making animal feed more expensive. And when that happens, producers sell off their herds quickly because it costs them about $75 a day to feed one cow. So we want to get rid of them as soon as possible. This time around, about 2 years ago, the majority of the continent was impacted by a drought, making feed costs much higher. Same thing happened, but the difference between now and 2014 is that producers are checking out, they're selling out, they're cashing in, they're getting their money, and they're leaving the industry.
So they're
not rebuilding their herds.
They're not coming back with a new herd the next year.
That's right. So inventories are extremely low. Right now in Canada, our herd size is the same as it was back in 1989. And we have 15 million more Canadians.
Bigger, yeah.
And so in the U.S., same thing, but their herd size is the same as it was back in 1951. So we do not expect beef prices to normalize themselves, if you will, until probably early 2027.
Wow. Yeah. I love beef. So, your
Me
words.
too.
Your words hit.
But grocers are trying hard to make you, the beef consumer, happy by buying alternatives that may be affordable, and that's why you probably saw Australian steak out there.
So that, or the one that worries me is when I see ungraded beef.
Yes.
We all know the grading system, AA, AAA, Prime, where you go to the States, it's AA choice, Prime, that sort of thing. We've aligned a little bit with the Prime side on the Americans. I don't know what ungraded beef is. It's like the socks I remember my mother bought me when I was a kid that said 100% unknown material. I don't want this stuff near me. What's ungraded beef?
Well, it means it doesn't mean unsafe. It just means that the country of origin doesn't recognize the same grading system that we have in Canada. So the United States actually have the same grading system. So if you see ungraded beef, chances are it's coming from Mexico, and chances are it comes from an older animal. So I've actually tried Mexican beef in Canada. I've actually tried Mexican beef in Mexico, and it's not the same. It's not the same. It's cheaper, but not the same.
What is driving food inflation overall, aside from these issues around the tariffs? Because you've got many products going up. It has been persistent for years now. And, I pulled it's a hard nut to crack from a headline I saw. Why has it been so difficult to get down? Core inflation at 1.9%. It's been in the range for quite some time, but I was just looking up. In July, it was 3.4. In June, it was 2.8. It has been persistently higher than the core inflation for months now.
That's right. And I think right now we're in the middle of a case study teaching us right now that companies here in Canada have fewer options than the United States. Look at the food inflation rate in the United States. It is much lower despite Trump's tariff bonanza that he has implemented for months now. We were expecting food inflation and inflation to explode in the US. It's not happening because, well, companies are more efficient in the US. And two, well, when Trump said to Walmart, eat up the tariff, well, he knew Walmart could eat up tariffs. In Canada, our companies can't. And if, say, for example,
what's the difference?
Efficiency, productivity, basically. And supply chains are managed very differently in Canada. So, for example, in Canada, if you have a supplier of peanuts because you're making peanut butter, well, you may actually have just one or two options. And if that price goes up, well, you have to suck it up. In the United States, well, they're a huge economy. A lot of people want to sell to the US. So if you're making peanut butter in the US and you're buying peanuts, guess what? Many people want you to buy their peanuts. That's the difference between the US and that's why going up against the US with counter tariffs was just an awful decision for our businesses and consumers.
Thank you, Sylvain. We're going to wrap it up with Sylvain right here. Oh, and yeah, let's cover Mr. McKinnon because I just wanted to double check one thing. Hold on. Yeah, we're done with Mr. McKinnon. Stephen. And this is a nice little message from Michelle Ferrari. Let's go here.
Raising your kids, maybe helping your aging. Hey, you.
Give me 1 second.
I know that you are just struggling to get by. I know you're just trying to live your life, maybe raising your kids, maybe helping your aging parents. Maybe you're a young kid trying to figure out how you're ever going to get a job or somewhere to live. I know that you think most politicians are corrupt and it doesn't matter what you do or say, it's just going to be the way that it is. And most of you don't pay attention to politics because it sounds like rah, 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 rah. But I'm here to tell you that if you don't pay attention and you don't do politics, politics will do you. In fact, politics is doing you right now.
Thank you. In
this video, I'm going to break down for you why this can.
And this is why we all need to know what's going on in our politics. If you don't follow politics in your country, you would be shocked at what you're missing.
The U.S. situation matters significantly to you and your family and your future. Mark Carney is the Prime Minister of Canada. Doug Ford is the Premier of Ontario. Donald Trump is the President of the United States. He is imposing tariffs on Canada. So Doug Ford decided that he would spend $75 million to run an ad in the United States
from our taxpayers' money.
Hopefully convince the American people that
Donald Trump is no good
and that he's going to stand up to Donald Trump and say, no way. Now, whether you agree or don't agree with what was in the ad, because there's some controversy around it, because he used Ronald Reagan, who is a very revered politician, his comments around tariffs, it actually doesn't friggin' matter. And the reason it doesn't matter is because of this. The United States of America's GDP, gross domestic product, is approximately $25 to $30 trillion. Canada makes up about $411 billion of that.
Wow.
For those of you who don't want to do the math, that's about 1.5%. Canada's total GDP, or gross
1.5% of the U.S.
$2.2 trillion. 75% of Canada's exports go to the United States. We are dependent on
the United States.
Why? Why are we dependent on the United States?
Yes, Michelle, tell us.
We shouldn't be dependent on the United States.
We shouldn't be.
I'll tell you why in just a second. But alas, we are. So you have Mark Carney, who ran an entire campaign that he was going to elbows up. He was going to fight with the big bad orange man. And now you have Doug Ford being like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. He's had to back down every time he's done this. Why does he have to back down? Because you're going to fight with somebody that is stronger than you, and you do not have the leverage. This is not an opinion. This is just the facts of the situation we are in. I do not for 1 second think that Canada is less than the United States. I live here. I'm a proud Canadian. I love Canada. I love Canada more than the United States. Do I love the United States? Yes.
Yes.
I have many friends, family there? Yes. Have they seen Doug Ford's ad? Absolutely not. In fact, it doesn't matter to them. Back to the dependence and why we don't need to. In August of 22, Germany knocked on Canada's door saying we urgently want non-Russian gas. And Justin Trudeau said,
Oh,
we don't
no.
want to do that. In fact, there is no business case to do that. What did Germany do? They went to Qatar. Billions and billions of dollars went to Qatar and the U.S. Japan also knocked on our door. We would like your LNG, please, Canada, because guess what? Canada has a lot of it. We don't have a little bit of it, folks. We have a lot of it. We have a lot of critical minerals. We have a lot of oil and gas. And we have.
And why do they want it? Because they need it and they want to have a reliable source to get it from, an abundant one, a trustworthy one. But it seems like we didn't want to be like that.
What the world needs. But guess where it is? Oh, yeah, it's in the ground.
It's in the ground.
The Liberals turned down both Germany and Japan and left us in this position. Billions and billions of dollars. Don't worry, though. Qatar got it. The U.S. got it. They got all of that revenue that we want.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to tell you what's going to happen. So what would be the impact if, let's say, U.S. decided to not deal with Canada at all? What would be the impact on their economy? And could they replace us with someone else? Yeah.
It's a fair question.
The impact on them is a predicted around 0.5% decrease in their GDP. Whereas if we lost the United States, catastrophe. Job losses, which were already catastrophe. Consumer spending would slump. And when consumer spending slumps, guess what happens? You have a decrease in taxes. Taxes is how the government makes money. You have to understand how the Liberals think and believe. And now you have today, when I'm doing this video, Mark Carney's in Malaysia saying he's going to invest $1 trillion.
In Malaysia?
Another trillion. 1.4, actually. So he promised that to Donald Trump, came back, got no deal. Then he is in Malaysia saying he's going to do another $1 trillion. But there's no business case for oil and gas.
Oh, no.
So the Liberals have
repeatedly
said one thing and done another. Then they've copied and pasted conservative policies. Let's use jail, not bail, for an example. The carbon tax is another example. And they say they're going to get rid of these things, but they don't actually do it. So that is why we are in this position. So how do you fix it? Okay, so breaking it down, so just basically napkin revenue for one fast-tracked East Coast project. So if Japan and Germany, when they came to us and said, we want your oil and gas, and we had have said yes, which is what we should have done, but Justin Trudeau and the Liberals said no, because they actually don't believe in developing oil and gas, it would have been approximately $5.4 billion US per year. So Germany signed a 15-year supply tenor. So it was from 2026 to 2040, which was the Qatar deal. The undiscounted gross that a single project could have captured is on the order of $80 billion. So why didn't it happen?
Tell us, Michelle.
St. John conversion was deemed uneconomic, okay? But more importantly, Ottawa's posture meant no East Coast export was accelerated in time to meet Germany's 2023 to 2026 windows. So the barrels went to Qatar and the US instead. So when I tell you there's a solution, it's there. And do not for 1 second not think that the Prime Minister is the one that can literally flick a switch to make this happen.
Yeah.
100%
Flick a pen.
He has this power to fast track. In fact, he said during the election, we are going to have to do things at record speeds that have never been done before.
Ultra speed, guys.
Here we are, 7 months later.
Speed of a turtle or a snail.
And we get more and more vulnerable. More and more vulnerable because we are not doing this. So what does that mean for you? It means you have to have the knowledge. You have to have these discussions because I can't stress to you enough how much it impacts your life.
Stress us
all
enough.
Garble-gooble.
Thank you, Michelle.
Oil and gas and exports and GDP and U.S. trade negotiations impacts what you pay at the grocery store. Impacts how much it costs for you to live, for your house, for your kids' future.
For your car, for your clothes.
It matters to you. I can't stress this enough. You have to pay attention, and they are banking on you not paying attention. That's what they want.
Don't pay attention.
They're banking on you voting for somebody who seems real nice. real nice. Oh, he's likable. He's likable, so I'm going to vote for
He's
him.
likable.
Stop voting for likability and start voting for results.
Oh, just like voting for a pretty face than intelligence. Thank you, Michelle, for keeping us grounded. And here's LeDrew. Yeah, we did cover LeDrew. Looks like I found it interesting that even the CTV guys, nobody knew that Carney was going to speak. Let's cover this a little bit. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Where are you? Nobody knew there was going to be a speech. And yet, there was a speech.
Of his long anticipated budget, but will it even pass given his minority government? Here to dive in and discuss is our City Talks panel, Ashley Chinati, Jeff Rutledge, and Aaron Morrison. I can't remember the last time a prime minister gave a speech to Canadians to try and sell his budget ahead of the November 4th date.
Thank
Do you
you.
remember this? Is this highly unusual? And is it a sign that perhaps he knows he has to do a hard job selling it? Ashley, you're the Liberal representative here. I'll start with you.
I think it's Mark Carney trying to play to his strengths, right? He's a former Bank of Canada governor, former Bank of England governor, and right now he's really kind of Canada's chief economist. And we know that there is some tough news for Canadians in the budget. They've been preconditioning that there's a significant deficit, and we don't know what he's going to say, but I think what we're going to get a sense of tonight is what is Mark Carney, the economist's plan as Prime Minister for the Canadian economy?
Jeff, tough sell or unpalatable? There are two different things here when it comes to politics.
Well, I think it's a bit of a poison pill for Canadians, right? They're at a point in time where they're really struggling. They're seeing, closure notices coming out. It seems like weekly at this point. And
he was supposed to fix that. That's why he was elected. He was going to be the magician to fix all this.
There was supposed to already be a deal in hand. And look, I think, Canadians are willing to give him an inch and perhaps even a mile for some to allow him, to negotiate the deal that we need to get with the states, and understanding Donald Trump's kind of approach to that. But the reality is they need to see a clear plan to move forward to affect change here in Canada so we can manage the things that we can change here and not rely on, as he has said himself, a tweet from the president to decide our economy.
But Aaron, it is a tough job. I mean, he's in a lot of difficult situations here. I guess the question, too, is could anybody be doing a better job at this point in time?
It's not about whether anybody could do a better job at this point in time. It's whether or not he's doing the job he promised to do.
Fair.
He ran on a platform of, I will stand up to Trump. I've got my elbows up. I'm going to get.
Yeah. We haven't heard anything of his elbows ever since. Get this commercial over with.
Canada a good deal. We're now 6 months, and not only have we not seen a good deal, we've seen capitulation after capitulation, and we've seen auto job after auto job lost.
Can this budget even pass? There's a lot of speak in Ottawa that maybe, I mean, he's three seats shy of a majority. Is this going to be a big problem?
We saw Government House Leader Stephen McKinnon come out this weekend and say that obviously they are in a minority government and the government does have some concerns about its ability to pass. But I think what Canadians are looking for is Parliament to work together to pass a budget, to keep the important work going that Mark Carney has started to grow our economy. We've seen significant legislation
Stephen said they don't want it.
Improving
they don't want the
bill
bill
in this country get going. And those kind of big economic changes that we require to shore up our economy against massive shakes like tariffs take time. And I think Canadians are looking for cooperation right now.
Do they want an election, though? Are they ready for this? Would they appreciate this budget not passing and calling an election?
Well, I don't think necessarily that it's time for an election, although I think every party is willing and able to fight. Well, perhaps not won, but willing and able to fight an election
That
if
was a
needed
dig
at the
against
moment.
the NDP, Aaron,
But I think, to Ashley's point about the desire of Canadians to see their parliament working, well, that requires a government in Prime Minister Carney to work with opposition. And I think there are some very clear tax measures that could be implemented as a part of this budget that might get him the votes that he needs to get it across the finish line. I just don't know whether or not he's willing to do that.
Okay, I'm going to agree that you need to work with the other parties. You need to throw things in your budget that they can support or that would be unpalatable for them not to support. And often in our history, in our recent history, the Liberals have tabled budgets that says, okay, NDP, we're going to do some things to earn your votes, like dental care, like pharmacare, the things that the NDP fought for. There's nothing here for the NDP that we've seen so far. Cuts, 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 layoffs, layoffs, layoffs. That is not something that's going to be easy for the New Democrats to support. And judging by how Pierre Poiliévre has responded, well, the NDP's in a leadership race. It would be difficult. There's no doubt about that.
We'll get back to that in a moment. Let's talk about Conservative leader Pierre Poiliévre, who has been causing quite a stir. Jeff, I'm going to give this one straight to you. Yeah. You know, he did an interview with a podcast, and he made some very controversial comments.
With the Northern
and as my colleague Glenn McGregor in Ottawa said yesterday, he is inviting comparisons to Donald Trump with his slamming of...
That is wrong for you to say that, man.
1 bean out of 100 makes the cut.
And for that, you know what?
Because
We're going to stop it. Because our broadcasters should never be speaking like that. Thank you. You should be sharing the information, not putting in your inputs. Because we do this on YouTube, but not for your job. Here we go. This made the news, like as if we still need to see this guy around. So it looks like Trudeau is dating Katy Perry. Really? Do we care? No, we don't care. Let's go along. Let's move along. Let's see what we got next here. Oh, yeah. We are going to go and check on Pierre's videos because I do enjoy his channel and he shares a lot of things with us. So maybe we can go and listen to him. Oh yeah, right here. This was actually a couple of days ago. Let's go back here.
This Prime Minister spends costs Canadians dearly. Since she doubled the deficit left by Justin Trudeau, inflation has accelerated. Today, Statistics Canada revealed that the inflation rate is rising, and in fact, 4 of the indicators are higher than the target, and grocery prices are increasing twice as fast as the BC. Will the Prime Minister reverse his inflationary taxes and deficits in his budget so that Canadians can live affordably? Katie.
Mr. Speaker, I am glad to see that the Leader of the Opposition is looking forward to November 4. Mr. Speaker, I am looking forward to it too. Canadians are looking forward to it. Why? Because on November 4, we will have good news, Mr. Speaker. Good news that will present Canadians with an ambitious plan. Mr. Speaker, last week I was in Washington and the managing director of the International Monetary Fund cited Germany and Canada as examples, Mr. Speaker, of having the fiscal capacity to make generational investments.
Yes, but are we going to?
We are going to build an ambitious Canada, a strong Canada, a Canada that Canadians will be very proud of. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, we do not work for Washington bankers. We work for single-parent mayors who can't pay their grocery bills. Today, we are seeing a skyrocketing inflation rate while the government is forcing Canadians to spend 70% more on the Canada Revenue Agency. Today, the general truth has shown that 15% of calls are answered in a timely manner, and if you do get a response, 83% of the time, it is the wrong information, gatewomation. Why do Canadians have to pay so
What's going on with the
much money
CRA?
for such poor service?
Thank you. And that was on Pierre's channel. Let me go here. I do believe I have a few more. Here we go. Let's see. Yes. The CBCs. Let me check it here. The CBC is actually under scrutiny, so let's check this out. But before that, we're gonna check on Pierre. What do we have here? Yes, let's go. The worst. Let's go back.
Canada, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has tried to deny the existence of continued hidden Liberal taxes on groceries. But Canada's leading food price expert, the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois, has said the exact opposite. He says, and I quote, the industrial
We were
carbon
just
tax,
listening to him earlier.
the worst part is still there. He was referring to the fact that farmers pay the tax on the steel that goes into their farm equipment, combines, tractors, and bins, and on their fertilizer. Is the Prime Minister really going to expect Canadians who can't pay their grocery bills to believe that the cost of the carbon tax on our farmers does not get passed on at the grocery shelf?
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to quote independent research, Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Climate Institute, which finds that the impact of the industrial carbon tax, now wait for it, the net impact of the industrial carbon tax on food prices, it is on average around 0%.
Isn't that insulting? Did you guys just hear that? He just insulted everybody here who buys food and telling us that inflation on food was 0%.
The Prime Minister expects us to believe government-funded so-called experts paid to push his agenda instead of believing in the obvious fact that when you tax the things that go into making food, you tax all who buy food. This is a Prime Minister who says he's a great expert, but he told CTV Nova Scotia that Canadians don't use steel anymore. Does he not acknowledge, does he not know that there is steel in farm tractors, farm combines, farm bins, and other farm equipment? And does he not think, for God's sakes, that those costs get passed on to consumers?
Ooh. Yeah, Pierre, and he, for God's sakes, he said. Does he not think? Let's go find out. But he doesn't think.
On page...
Let's check this out, guys.
12 of your report, there is reference to Brookfield's tax gap over the last 5 years between 2017 and 2021. Just so that I'm clear on what a tax gap means, it is measuring the difference between taxes actually paid and taxes that would have been paid if the statutory Canadian tax rate had been applied to profits reaped. Do I have that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And according to your analysis, or the analysis cited in your report, Brookfield's tax gap in just 5 years between 2017 to 2021 was over $6.5 billion. Is that right?
That's correct, and that was based on research done by the Canadians for Tax Fairness and by some analysis from the Toronto Star as well.
So it would be fair to say that the extent of Brookfield's tax avoidance, taxes that it should have otherwise paid in Canada in just 5 years, was over $6.5 billion.
Yes, I mean, the tax gap is looking at the statutory rate, and there are some reasons why legitimate reasons why companies pay below that, but that's an indication of a major underpayment of taxes that, in the spirit of the law, should have been paid in Canada to finance public services in Canada.
Yeah, I'd say $6.5 billion is a lot of money. Would it be fair to say that Brookfield is Canada's largest tax dodger amongst corporations?
I would say so.
It has been labeled as such, and if it's not the largest, it's clearly in the very top tier.
Well, your report cites 123 of Canada's largest.
This is our Prime Minister's company who holds his portfolio and holds a lot of Canadian retirees' portfolios,
corporations,
and so on.
And it found that the largest tax gap for 2017 to 21 was none other than Brookfield, right?
None other than Brookfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we thank
We
you.
want this to be, once again, an economy where anybody who works hard can afford a beautiful, safe home.
Carney's always skimming money from Canadians out of our country, to the point that he took his company out of our country. And we got this young man who just wants to do everything for us, speaks for us. Let us know what they're doing.
With good meat and potatoes on the dinner table every single night, and to do so under our proud flag. I think about how far we've come back in our economy. I was just the other day in PEI, and I was at the coffee shop, and I asked the lady, it wasn't a fancy coffee shop, I said, how much is that espresso machine you've got over there? It's a small little machine. She said it cost $11,000. I was blown away by that. And there's a little old lady on the other side of the counter, and she said, I bought my first house for $9,000 in 1971 in Montreal. And I said to her, well, what did you and your husband make that year? She said, we made about 17 grand. And so it was like 6 months family income could buy you a fully detached house. And now it's more like 10 times family income. One would think that with all of the technology and the advances that it would be cheaper to build homes. In fact, the reality is that the cost of housing has gone way down. It's just that the value of our money has gone down much more quickly than that. The purchasing power of our currency.
So is the dollar worth the dollar, or 50 cents, or 60 cents, or 80 cents, or is it really like 10 cents right now? If you agree with me, let me know about that 10 cents. I kind of think it's more of a 10 cents.
Has lost its value faster than the costs of things has dropped.
And
that is why people are paying more. The good news is, because this problem is caused by the government, we know how to solve the problem. We need to undo the things that caused it. And that is exactly what we're proposing. To get the government out of your way and off your back and by your side, working with you rather than against you, unlocking the genius that is in this room and that is in every single business, so that you can unlock the genius and the strength of your workforce. And so that the people who build the homes can actually afford to buy the homes, so that this can be a country that keeps its promise to every single person, that it doesn't matter where you come from, it matters where you're going. It doesn't matter who you knew, it matters what you can do. A country that drives itself forward based on merit and performance, a country where businesses get ahead by having the best product, not the best lobbyist, where they work to please customers, not politicians. And with that, I will please all of you by bringing my remarks to
at least a politician that speaks common sense and speaks decency and speaks honestly. What do we have? The gibberish guy now. Nobody wanted the common sense guy. Nobody wanted the nice guy. Everybody wanted the crazy tough one that was actually not tough and too short.
And thanking you for your support. Let's swing those hammers. Let's build those homes. Let's make our country strong and free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pierre. Oh, yeah, let me get back to the other one. Hold on. My apologies. Next one, we're finishing some of Pierre's latest videos that he did. Let's watch this.
Symbolizes the Canada-U.S. tug of war for auto jobs than the river separating Detroit from Windsor. A tug of war that has intensified as President Trump has made clear he wants our auto sector and our auto jobs. Now, of course, Mark Carney promised that he could, quote, handle Trump, that he could, quote, negotiate a win, and that he would have a deal by July 21st. Well, here we are, it's almost November, and there's no deal, no win, no elbows, and increasingly, no jobs. In fact, the Prime Minister promised that he was going to build an all-in-Canada network of automotive production. Since that time, what we've seen is the tragic loss of so many jobs. Just recently, Stellantis announced it was moving operations from a 3,000 worker plant in Brampton. And of course, there's been about 1,000 workers who lost their jobs at the Cami plant in Ingersoll, and another 700 workers in Oshawa that have lost their jobs. Meanwhile, GM has announced that it's making $4 billion of investment in the U.S. Stellantis, $13 billion of investment. That's money leaving Canada to go to the United States of America, making them
17.
richer. And
hold on, let's how much? Yeah,
GM has announced that it's making $4 billion of investment in the U.S. Stellantis, $13 billion of investment. That's money leaving Canada to go to the United States of America, making them richer and us poorer, all bursting in and shattering into smithereens the promises Mark Carney made to those workers that he would protect their jobs. Of course, he made promises that no one could ever keep, and he broke promises that he should have been able to direct. We needed to focus on the things we can control on the Canadian side of the border. For example, the government's plan to ban internal combustion engines, gas and diesel-powered vehicles, is already killing jobs, even though it's not yet implemented. Because, of course, if you're a business looking at making an investment in a plant, you're not going to do it if that plant is going to be banned or severely penalized by a government mandate 3 or 4 years down the road. In fact, you move it to another place, like the U.S., where there is no such mandate. Conservatives believe that Canadian business and workers decide what cars to make, and Canadian consumers should decide what cars to buy. In other words, get rid of the mandate and put you back in the driver's seat on the vehicles you choose to drive. Secondly, I don't know what's worse, Trump's tariffs or Carney's taxes. He's got an industrial carbon tax that applies to almost everything that goes into making an automobile. The plastics, the rubber, the steel, and the other metals that could potentially be produced or altered or changed are all more expensive because of an industrial carbon tax that does not exist on the American side of the border, but does on our side. This drives production and paychecks out of our country. Let's get rid of the entire carbon tax for everyone, for everything, for good. Let's cut tax on investment by allowing people to reinvest, businesses to reinvest their capital gains tax-free as long as it's invested here in Canada. In fact, let's take all taxes off of Canadian-made automobiles so that our consumers have an incredible incentive to buy Canadian. We need to fight for our workers, fight for our people and our production. We need to start to put Canadian business, Canadian workers, and Canadian quality of life first. In fact, let's put Canada first.
Thank you. Maybe we will. Maybe we will now. So let me go back and share our question period for today. We're going to cover just the part where Pierre is talking, because Pierre is the main guy. No, Carney is not here. Anyways. So let's go.
Not knowing what's going on in my business. That's what keeps me up at night. The fact that we run on Monday.com and that it takes our day-to-day.
opportunities for our young people all across Quebec and Canada. Mr. Speaker, the question is, will the Bloc trigger an election at Christmas in 2025? Yes or no?
Member for Thornhill.
The Daily Bread Food Bank and the North York Food Bank in Toronto just released their annual report. It's called Who's Hungry, and it seems like the answer to that question is nearly everyone. 2.2 million visits in a single month.
This is the feed
it
that
took
starts
decades to hit 1 million, and only
right
half
away
a decade.
with Pierre. They cut off half an hour or something like that. Let's go.
Oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Banque Alimentaire Canada.
Food Banks Canada has published its report on 2025, their final report, and they report 100% increase in the number of people needing food bank assistance since the Liberals took power. Last year, 39% experienced food insecurity, 53% skipped meals, 34% spent a whole day without eating, and 82% of households were not able to get enough food because of the Liberals' inflationist prices. How many more meals are Canadians going to miss because of this Prime Minister's upcoming budget? The Honourable Government House Leader. Food Banks Canada reports on 4 main factors to help solve the hunger problem in Canada. It's a lasting problem, and it requires a huge battle to overcome. There are people with disabilities, there's health, there's dental care, there's food, school programs, and the National Housing Strategy. Those are all programs that they voted against that will help. And they've voted against every initiative we've undertaken to support the disadvantaged. The Honourable Opposition Leader. Food Banks Canada, I'll paraphrase what they said, that it took decades to get 1 million people in the lineup for a food bank, but only 5 years to get up to 2 million clients in the lineup. So after 10 years of Liberal rule, there are now 700,000 children using food banks. The Liberal programs just feed bureaucracy, not children. Are they going to force Canadians to sacrifice even more now? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that Canadians are dealing with challenges, and that's why the government is investing in Canadian families to help them get ahead. Thanks to the school food program, which we are making permanent, we will alleviate some of the pressures on Canadian families, also through dental care, our child care program, and the Canada Child Benefit. These are essential measures to ease the pressure on Canadian families. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Released its report today, Hunger Count 2025, showing the number of Canadians relying on a food bank has more than doubled since this Liberal government took office. It shows that 39% of the population experienced food insecurity, 82% did not have enough to eat, 34% went an entire day without eating, 53% missed a meal to afford something else, 28% went hungry at least once a week. Now the Prime Minister says Canadians will have to make even more sacrifices. How many meals will Canadians have to sacrifice for yet another costly Liberal budget?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is good at throwing all of this stuff out. What he's not good at is reading what the groups on the ground actually have to say. Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government, opposed by this Leader of the Opposition and his party, systematically evoked in the report from Food Banks Canada today, Mr. Speaker. We support these key assistance programs for Canadians. He votes against them and then dares to get up and criticize us for putting in place support for the weakest Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, their programs do not feed kids, they feed bureaucracy, consultants, lobbyists, and Liberal insiders. And if you want to question that, 700,000 kids are lined up at food banks every single month. And let me quote from the report. It took decades to reach 1 million visits in any month, and it has now taken half a decade to more than double that. These are not outliers. This is Canada's new normal. The more government spends, the more things cost. How many meals will Canadian kids have to sacrifice for yet another costly Liberal budget?
Sure. The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In fact, Canada's largest food bank in Toronto, the Daily Bread Food Bank, is asking that the National School Food Program be made permanent through legislation. and we are delivering this. They're asking because the program helps provide nutritious meals to 400,000 children at school. The Conservative Party voted against this. The members opposite will soon have an opportunity to do the right thing for their constituents and make school food permanent. We urge them to do so.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, these liberal programs feed bureaucracy, lobbyists, consultants, and insiders, but they don't feed kids. Children cannot eat liberal press releases or liberal photo ops. Mothers cannot fill shopping carts with liberal boasting. Canadians need food, and right now, after 10 years of this Liberal government, there's now 2.2 million Canadians lined up at food banks. 700,000 of them are kids, and a third are in families where they work, but their paychecks are vaporized by Liberal taxes and inflation. How many meals will Canadians have to sacrifice for the next costly Liberal budget?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the Leader of the Opposition seems to flat out ignore the fact that this government is focused on affordability. We are focused on affordable housing, which the reports outline as a critical driver for affordable food. We are taking action, Mr. Speaker. We look at the trajectory we are on right now. Mortgage rates are coming down. Average rents are coming down, according to the Parliamentary Budget Office. We're seeing progress, but we're not stopping there, Mr. Speaker. Build Canada Homes will be in this budget. $13 billion that this opposition can vote for affordable housing in.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We have more people starving.
Is affordability. Mr. Speaker, here are the facts from the Hunger Count report. 78% of food banks had to buy more food than normal because they were running out and not collecting enough donations. 1/4 of food banks actually ran out of food while there are still people lined up waiting for something to eat. We now have nearly a third of Canadians who go hungry at least once a week. This sounds like something out of a Great Depression, and the Prime Minister has the audacity to say Canadians should sacrifice even more. How many meals will his costly budget force Canadians to sacrifice?
No sacrifice, guys. No sacrifice.
I take it by the question of the Leader of the Official Opposition that he will support Budget 2025, where we make the school food program permanent, where we double down on jobs for young Canadians, where we invest in skills training for the skilled trades professionals of the future. Mr. Speaker, I just announced that in the budget, personal support workers will receive a tax credit of $1,100 a year. Mr. Speaker, we are putting money and support in the hands of Canadians, and that's why they trust us, Mr. Speaker.
Nobody trusts you guys.
Mr. Speaker, just this past weekend, the government blamed the opposition, complaining that there was a lack of support to get the budget passed. But just a friendly reminder, the people elected a minority government. That means the people wanted the government to work with the opposition to come to agreements. The government can come to agreements with the Conservatives or with us or with independent members. So instead of complaining and threatening elections, when are they going to get down to work? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, of all the criticisms you could make about this government, not working, I think, not getting down to work is one of the furthest fetched criticisms. Now, there are 44 Quebec members elected on this side of the House who are working pretty darn hard, Mr. Speaker, for their communities and for people in their ridings and to meet the real needs out there in Quebec. The Bloc, it seems to me, is a bit slow to realize this with their 22 members. Yes, the Bloc is a minority. The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals don't even know what it means to work together for the common good. What they're saying is vote for our budget, even though we have completely ignored Quebecers' needs. And then they're surprised when we tell them they need to get back to work. We're 1 week before November 4th. The Liberals are well aware of our demands around healthcare, seniors, housing, access to home ownership, infrastructure, and the reimbursement of the $800 million stolen from Quebecers. The real question is, do they want our support? The Honourable Minister of Diversity and Canadian Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I think I'll call for your assistance because we're having a lot of trouble understanding the Bloc's position. There was a meeting between the Prime Minister and the Bloc and the House Leader and the Finance Minister and myself, and they presented all their demands, and now they're saying they're not going to vote for the budget. So are they willing to negotiate? If so, we are too. But if they're not willing, you can't sit in the middle of two chairs like that. You can't have your cake and eat it too. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals met with party leaders about the budget when the budget had already been written. They didn't talk to Quebecers either. There were no pre-budget consultations. No witnesses were heard in committee. After a year and a half without a budget, the Liberals worked on their own without even meeting a single stakeholder from Quebec's socioeconomic communities. And then they're surprised when we tell them they're not meeting the needs of Quebecers. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals know what they need to do to get our support. The real question is, do they really want their budget to pass? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, Canadians elected a new government 6 months ago, a government with a mandate to undertake major projects in Quebec and outside Quebec to work on the needs of our communities and to move ahead with projects that will create opportunities for our young people all across Quebec and Canada. Mr. Speaker, the question is, will the Bloc trigger an election at Christmas in 2025? Yes or no?
Member for Thornhill.
The Daily Bread Food Bank and the North York Food Bank in Toronto just released their annual report. It's called Who's Hungry? And it seems like the answer to that question is nearly everyone. 2.2 million visits in a single month. It took decades to hit 1 million and only half a decade under these Liberals to double it to more than 2 million. They found that 82% of households report they didn't have enough food to eat in this year. The majority said it was because of the cost of living. Every dollar that the government spends simply drives up food prices. It's over 4 million visits in Toronto. How many more people do they want visiting next year?
Yeah, the Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, this government has taken and continues to take real action that supports the people of Canada. We have instituted the National Food Program. We have instituted the Canadian Dental Care Program. We have instituted a number of things that help Canadians, whereas the Conservatives can't be trusted to help anyone. They use this as a speaking point instead of really caring about Canadians and whether or not they have the resources they need. These programs help seniors. They help seniors across the country and ensure that they have what they need to retire with dignity, where the Conservatives push the retirement age higher.
That's a horrible. The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Speaker, if any one of those programs worked, there wouldn't be over 700,000 kids in line at a food bank. Make food cheaper. Instead, they doubled the deficit and they sent food bank usage up 360% in 5 years in Toronto. Students make up a quarter of those visits to food bank. And just last week, the Prime Minister lectured them all about making sacrifices. Well, they've already sacrificed home ownership. They've sacrificed good-paying jobs. And now he's asking them to sacrifice food. What will it take for the Prime Minister to make them, or what sacrifices will they need to make to stop this Prime Minister from his out-of-control spending?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The report invoked also clearly states that to tackle these challenges, we need to strengthen supports to families. It specifically mentions delivering school food, dental care, childcare, and affordable housing at scale. Conservative MPs have voted against each of these measures. In fact, Conservative MP for Central Newfoundland called the National School Food Program garbage, even though it's already feeding 4,000 kids in his home province. We are focused on solutions and on delivering for Canadian families.
Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Tyendinaga.
Food banks were meant for emergencies, not everyday survival. Yet more Canadians rely on them each month just to eat. Families are working harder but falling further behind as groceries soar and paychecks shrink. This isn't about generosity, Mr. Speaker. It's about failure. Right. As Food Banks Canada CEO Kristen Beardsley warns, there were 2.2 million food bank visits in a single month. The longer they ignore the reality on the ground, the deeper the crisis becomes. Mr. Speaker, when will this Liberal government realize their inflationary deficits are driving Canadians to the food bank?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, I assume the Member of Parliament opposite was listening to my colleague when she was quoting Canada Food Banks about what needs to happen next, which is making the school nutrition program permanent, Mr. Speaker, investing in affordable houses, Mr. Speaker, ensuring that people have the supports that they need to live a comfortable life, Mr. Speaker, including affordable childcare and dental care. And, Mr. Speaker, that's what we're going to do, and we sure hope they don't vote against Canadians again.
The Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Tyendinaga.
We keep sounding the alarm, but it feels like no one on that side is listening, Mr. Speaker. Families are stretched thin and communities are breaking under the weight of rising costs. One food bank executive said it plainly. Housing and food costs are the greatest contributors to the increase in our services. Costs for basic living continue to rise while the money coming in does not. When will this government finally hear the voices of Canadians and stop letting hidden taxes, packaging taxes, and the industrial carbon tax drive families to the food bank?
Thank you, ma'am.
The Honourable Minister of Housing and
Mr. Speaker, well, again, the member opposite did connect the dots between housing costs and food costs, and that's why this government is so laser focused on affordable housing. And we are seeing action on this. We're seeing progress to date. We're seeing average rents come down across Canada. We're seeing mortgage rates come down. We're seeing home prices come down to make life more affordable. We're cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians and first-time homebuyers. All of those measures are delivering results, and we aren't stopping there, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Quebec, Naktuquak.
Mr. Speaker, Food Banks Canada reports 2.2 million visits in a single month, double what it was just 6 years ago. Their CEO says poverty and hunger have become the new normal in Canada. Working Canadians, from construction crews to office staff, are having to stop by food banks on their way home from work. In rural Canada, where food and fuel already cost more and jobs are often seasonal, families are being hit hardest. When will the Prime Minister admit his inflationary deficits are driving Canadians to food banks instead of grocery stores and change course?
The Honourable Secretary of State for
Wow,
Mr. Speaker, it's hard to listen to the party opposite talk about affordability when they voted.
Ooh, Mr. Wayne, we're done with you. I believe this is it. Pierre is not coming back for anymore, as Mr. Carney is not in-house. But let's go see quickly. Yeah, but the whole subject for an hour are pretty much what they are. The budget, the food, the inflation, the jail no bail, and the chaos that's going on in our country. With that, I think it's a good time to end this. I want to say a good night.